The 19th century is displayed at start and a rich family is shown. An exquisite woman lives in this well-off family named Eugenie. She talks transparently with her sibling in the family, and just he is familiar with her extraordinary capacities. She could actually converse with the dead ones. What's more, realizes she grasps their misery, and when she addresses the dead, she inhales trouble. The individual in front consider her distraught and was getting the messages of dead ones as she was developing senior. She goes to take care of her grandma one day and inquires as to whether she went to her companion's memorial service. She doesn't answer like the typical individuals and says, "Okay, I went there. I had an opportunity to converse with many individuals." In reality, she was discussing the dead individuals here. Her grandmother was likewise used to her way of behaving, and she remained stressed due to her. Her grandmother doesn't respond to her. Eugenie goes to the market with her sibling, as she wasn't permitted to go alone, and she appreciates it a great deal. She meanders in the roads and afterward goes to a bistro and sees a man there perusing a book about spirits. This man acquaints himself with Eugenie and converses with her for quite a while. Then, at that point, Eugenie lets him know she isn't keen on him or even in his discussions. She was simply watching the book, and when the kid finds this, he gives the book to Eugenie for an evening. Presently, Eugenie can peruse this book for an evening. She brings the book at home and peruses the book for the entire evening. Perusing the book, she comprehends her motivation and how she can speak with the spirits, how she can help them. The kin are demonstrated to accompany a well-off family. Eugenie's father converses with her. Really, her dad could do without her. He doesn't cherish her in light of the fact that Eugenie was against her dad's assumptions. Her dad could do without the young ladies who are unassuming and help poor people. Eugenie didn't comprehend the meaning of being rich, and he thought poor people, young ladies, are benevolent and humble. Those young ladies seem to be poor and don't seem to be rich young ladies. Similarly, their relationship was feeble, and on one occasion she was brushing her grandmother's hair, and this was her everyday daily practice. Out of nowhere, a dead soul attempts to converse with her, and she promptly leaves the consideration of her grandmother. She takes out the things from the cabinet and tracks down a jewelry. Her grandmother becomes shocked to see the jewelry, since it was a gift given by her significant other quite a while back. Grandmother felt it is taken on the grounds that she wasn't tracking down it. Eugenie's grandmother asks, "Who let you know that the jewelry is here?" Eugenie's condition was more terrible and says, "Granddad conversed with me now, and he let me know where is the jewelry." The following morning, Eugenie's mom comes to alert her and expresses, "Wake up, Eugenie, your dad is taking you to the store," and she becomes glad to hear this, as her dad never took her to a store like this, despite the fact that he didn't permit her to go to the market alone. She doesn't see the way of behaving of her dad and sibling on the way, as their way of behaving was weird. She sees the things under the seat of her dad in the vehicle in which they were taking her. She has perceived something wrong will occur and asks her sibling, "Where are you taking me?" She sees outside the window, and a woman was gazing at her unusually. She gets frightened, and afterwards she is shown hauled by two men, and she yells while calling her sibling and father. They were watching her quietly. Eugenie was taken inside, and her sibling is shown he was terrified and regurgitating. He was embarrassed about carrying her sister to this spot. How will they manage her? Presently, Eugenie is shown taken inside, and she was analyzed, yet she was yelling that I am not distraught. Like her life's motivation was to demonstrate that she isn't frantic. Afterward, Eugenie was taken into a room, and there were numerous frantic women. Some of them were like Eugenie. They were not distraught, however, they were kept here in the wake of being tormented. There was another genteel Eugenie, and she assists her with settling here. Then, at that point, Eugenie's companion was required the treatment some male specialist call her, and she sees they were not regarding her as a patient. They were dealing with her like an item, and they spellbind her. The specialist were mistreating her, even she tumbled down. That being said, they don't had compassion for her, and there wasn't any specialist who deal with the patients. There was a medical caretaker who deals with all patients, and her name was Genevieve. She was a head medical caretaker and knows those specialists quite well, however she can't conflict with them, and Eugenie doesn't enlighten anybody regarding her powers. She was frightened, as she probably is aware after it. She will gone through the examinations. At some point, she tells Genevieve about her sister's message. Actually, Genevieve's sister, who passed on contacts with Eugenie. The head nurture doesn't trust her, however, when Eugenie confesses to the insider facts among her and her sister, she gets stunned yet expresses nothing to Eugenie. She leaves, and afterward there was Eugenie's last assessment the following day, and the specialists will pose a great deal of inquiries to Eugenie. The specialist makes Eugenie concur through the inquiries that she actually converses with the spirits. She concurs, and the specialists say we'll save her in the haven for some time longer. Eugenie ends up being incensed and yells at the specialists, yet she commits a tremendous misstep while yelling here. The specialist affirms that she is a patient of mania when she yells. The mania patients were kept in a case loaded with ice, and the patient was saved in the container for a really long time. Indeed, even the patient's body becomes wet and the patient didn't feel torment. The patient doesn't recuperate with this treatment, however his condition deteriorates. The specialist accepts the women recuperate with this treatment. Eugenie was additionally given this treatment, however she yells before the specialists that I am not distraught, kindly don't give me this treatment. None hears her. Then the head nurture Genevieve is shown she was getting back to her home. Then she sees somebody was pursuing her and saw that was Eugenie's sibling. He was stressed over his sister and tells Genevieve that my sister has the ability to converse with the spirits. He gives her Eugenie's book to demonstrate this. He requests that she give this book to his sister, and the head nurture takes the book. Now she was likewise intrigued by this. She serves the entire night for perusing this book and becomes upset in the wake of perusing the substance of the book. Understanding it, she feels Eugenie was saying right that she conversed with my sister. The location of the haven is shown where Eugenie was let out of the treatment. Eugenie's condition was more terrible as she come in the wake of laying on the ice for quite a while. Indeed, even she was unable to rest around evening time, and the head nurture Genevieve comes to her. She converses with her as she needs to converse with her dead sister. She says to Eugenie that she will help her if she needs to meet her sibling. She additionally gives her the book her sibling has given Genevieve for giving it to her. Eugenie says she simply doesn't have any desire to see her sibling and needs to leave. She wants to move out from here. She needs independence from here. However, Genevieve says this is incomprehensible. She says I will attempt to give my very best. Eugenie attempts a ton yet couldn't contact to her sister. In the meantime, Eugenie's condition is shown more regrettable and she says your dad is in danger. Genevieve hurries to her home and finds a napkin at the table. It was absorbed blood, and sees her dad who was going to black out. She has saved him on time, and the time elapses like this in the refuge. Following a month, Eugenie was put on the ice consistently and she every day experiences this aggravation. They were not acting great with the women who were there. At some point, Eugenie sees the condition of a patient deteriorates in view of excess and the acts of the specialist. Eugenie ends up being enraged to see it and had no control over herself. She says out of frustration you are liable for the state of those patients. Eugenie was sent for confinement in view of yelling, and she was shipped off a dull room. There was a window that was locked, however the medical caretaker frequently opens it. Presently she doesn't do this and Eugenie wasn't permitted to see the light. She was a severe medical caretaker and consider the patient toys. Eugenie converses with many spirits in this room, the spirits who lived here. They passed on while living here and Eugenie gets frightened from this. She was calling the attendant over and over who brought her here. Essentially nothing has any significance to this medical attendant, and Eugenie hears commotion of the spirits. She couldn't in fact have food due to the commotion. One day, the medical attendant comes to her room and reprimands her, yet Eugenie doesn't respond to her. She stays to sit quiet and she eats the delicious food before Eugenie. Seeing it, Eugenie says I can see your mom, and says I conversed with your mom and she passed on here. The attendant says okay, you are correct, I have finished my mom here. Then Eugenie takes out the subject of the children of the medical attendant and says your children were finished by your mom. The medical caretaker begins sobbing while at the same time hearing this, and afterwards she holds Eugenie's neck and precludes her to take her children's name before her. Then, at that point, the medical caretaker departs. As the medical caretaker was departing, a young lady crashes into her and takes the keys from her furtively, then gives the keys to the head nurture Genevieve. This was Genevieve's plan, that she will take the keys from the medical caretaker. She goes close Eugenie's entryway and converses with her. Eugenie informs everything concerning her sister to the head nurture. She gets stunned to hear this and afterwards says thanks to her for passing on the data about her sister. Presently she vows to take out Eugenie from here, and the attendant tells the specialist that Eugenie is better at this point. She ought to be taken out from the disengagement. The specialist thinks the head nurture, and still, after all that he permits to move her to the normal ward. Eugenie was removed from the dull room and she has emerged from the dim room. After numerous days, she sees air and light. She becomes cheerful and afterwards sees her companion there, and she was currently in a wheelchair due to some unacceptable examinations of the specialist. Presently the day shows up of the ball whenever the patients will be able to wear new garments. The patients partake in that day, and they partake in that day as they are typical. Eugenie's sibling was additionally welcome to this party. Eugenie's sibling has shown up at the party, however sees her sibling and imagines she doesn't have any acquaintance with him. They met following a year and they were imagining this since they will escape from here. The attendant who finished her mom sees them getting away and attempting to hold them, however another woman holds the medical caretaker. The woman ends up being crazy and was going after the specialists there. The woman was showing them the illustration that how they treated the patients. Genevieve is shown who would rather not go out with Eugenie. She will remain here to assist the women who with requiring her assistance. After it, the time following a couple of years is shown. Eugenie is shown living a long way from everybody. Without precedent for her life, she was both fulfilled and blissful. Here this film closes.